and welcome to another painting table original video. And what we're going to be doing today is using paper mache to make some terrain, and probably something you'd have on your display board, because if you used paper mache in elementary school, you know it's not exactly the sturdiest of materials, but it's a kind of quick and easy way to make something unique that can really help your army stand out. And in a pinch, as long as your models aren't moving over it, it could be used as part of terrain for your gaming table as well. So what you'll see over here is that I've already mixed up the paper mache, and it's a very simple recipe that I found on the internet. It's just 1 part flour to 2 parts water, and it will kind of have a slightly thick but mostly watery consistency. And paper mache can kind of have a weird smell to it. I don't know, I have a thing about smells, so if you're like that, the tip I found is to add a dash of cinnamon, and that really does make a big difference. And if you throw in a little sugar and maybe some oil, you'll have yourself a nice muffin recipe. So what I've done here is I've started to prep the surface. This here is not my display board, but a piece of foam board that I will eventually cut around the terrain. And this is a great idea because you want everything on your display board, or as many things as possible, to be removable. Because a lot of times, for transfer reasons, and maybe if you love it, you're going to want to use it as terrain. So I highly recommend that you have a separate piece. This is 1/2-inch thick foam board that you can find you can find at any kind of gaming / hobby store. If you have somewhere that has railroad, especially railroad hobby things, that's definitely something that you could find there. Also, you know, you can find foam at like Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware stores, essentially, is another place that you could look. So what I've done here is I kind of crumpled up some newspaper, and I made the base for what's going to be the skull kind of coming out of the sand. Think of the Mummy. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here. So if you're going for something larger, like a hill or maybe a monument coming up, put a whole bunch of newspaper together and tape it together first. But this, because mine is going to be a very short object, started with a short base. And what you do is you take your newspaper, which I have ripped into small pieces, and you completely submerge it within the paper mache. It feels gross, but you get used to it. You can kind of get off some of the excess and just start placing them across your surface. And your goal is going to be to make as smooth a surface as possible so that you cannot see the edges of the newspaper. And the way that you can achieve that is through small pieces and pieces that have been completely submerged within the paper mache glue. And I haven't found that any particular pattern makes it look better. I would say that going all the same direction is not the best idea, because that will lead to those kind of gaps between the pieces of paper. So just have fun with it, go in all sorts of directions, and make sure that your area has newspaper, and that you don't care about your clothes, because it will get messy. So what you'll see here is just the peripheral, the initial look. It's going to take many layers, and they may need to dry in between, but it smells pretty good. There are other recipes out there for paper mache. I know there's ones using white glue. I find that this one is ideal because it's not really going to damage any surface, though. Like, I'm getting some on the floor, but just like if you were cooking and batter got on the floor, you can wipe it right up. It's not going to damage the floor, whereas white glue could definitely get stuck there and not come off. So now, if you can see, well, what I've done so far has become hardened. It takes about 24 hours, give or take a little bit. I actually sped this one up a little bit. I used some, I put a blow dryer on it for a few minutes because I got impatient. But it does take a very long time to dry, so I'll be patient. Also, you'll see it's kind of sunken in a little bit, which I was kind of going for anyway because I didn't want it to be sitting up too high, and that's perfectly normal. You can expect that to happen, and so don't get stressed out. You can simply build it up, which is what I'm going to be doing now. And you see here, what I have is just some newspaper wrapped in tape, and just to show you an example of kind of what I did. You can rip up a decent sized chunk. This is actually a couple pieces, and I just roughly roll them together to get the essence of the shape that I wanted to make. I even fold this one in half because I think I want something a little smaller and firmer. And then you take masking tape. I highly recommend masking tape because the glue goes over it very well. Whereas something like packing tape or duct tape, because they have that glossy surface, it might kind of show through and the glue substance of the paper mache may not work as well. So there you have it. There's kind of, you can tape it into whatever shape it is that you need. And again, this is a little more advanced than, say, just a hill. And what I'm desiring is that here will be the brow line, here's the nose that I started to build up, and here's where the mouth will go. So if I want to kind of make like a surprise or like a screaming mouth, I can start with the outline of the shape that I'm looking for and tape it into place. So I'm just about done with this step. You can see that it's a little more screamy now. I rolled up a piece of newspaper, just like so, and laid it flat in there and used that to give the angle that I was looking for. And now I'm going to have to let this level dry before I add more and sort of smooth out and accentuate the features. You can see that I kind of made a downhill effect on the sides because it's supposed to be coming out of the sand, not just like a face jutting out. It's supposed to be more like, less like a rock and more like sand. And I kind of did that by draping some across and leaving it at like a long distance so it gets that like nice incline angle. And I will continue to do that during the next step in order to make those inclines smoother and softer and kind of more natural, like it's simply coming out of the sand, especially with the brow line. Needs more buffing. There needs to be more head here. So we're going to let it dry for another 24 to 48 hours, and then we'll be moving on to the next step.